So there are two aspects to the cloud. One, the aspect that the user sees, and the other is the infrastructure underneath. By now, the aspect that the user sees should be familiar to all of us, right? You've got a cloud when a user, in our case, if it's a user of an infrastructure, it is another IT department or a developer can get infrastructure using any ubiquitous access method. They can get it on demand. In other words, they can go and press a button and get a virtual machine. Not only get a virtual machine, but they get all the services stood up around that virtual machine. So they get an infrastructure service. And they can pull these things out of a service catalog which has a standardized set of definitions. So if you've got all of these, then you've got the makings of a cloud as seen by the users. And last but not the least, the users get charged for what they consume, as opposed to being charged upfront. That's a user-facing side. In order to make this happen, the infrastructure has to change in a fundamental manner. Clearly, we talked about the need for the infrastructure to be virtualized, but it doesn't stop there. It's got to be multi-tenant. In other words, you got to be able to have multiple groups of users, each feel that they've got their own dedicated setup. And all the traffic and all the security and everything else has to be enforced such that these seem completely isolated from each other. You got to have a very high degree of automation. Because if you got to be able to press a button and get a virtual machine stood up with all of the necessary services to run the application, there's got to be a very high degree of automation under the covers. You got to have elasticity. In other words, you got to have the infrastructure be able to scale up and down with demand without having to pre-provision it. Elasticity is about having the users feel that they are never out of capacity. And lastly, it's got to be about service levels, right? Because you got to be able to provide not just dedicated infrastructure, you're providing infrastructure or services with a certain level of service level associated. We've got the first and only complete stack in the industry for building a cloud. If you look at the attributes on the left, these are implemented by a set of products that we introduced into the market, especially over the last year. Starting from the vSphere that you all know, including the vCenter management suite beyond the core vCenter server, but a set of management products, a set of security offerings, and vCloud Director, which pulls it all together, takes infrastructure and turns it into an on-demand service. Let me spend a brief minute on the vCloud Director. This was a product we introduced late last year. Fundamentally, it is a product that brings together all aspects of the infrastructure, turns it into an on-demand service, enables the multi-tenancy, enables the isolation, enables the automated provisioning that reduces the operational expenses. This is a